Well, hello everyone. This is astrologer Ryan Evans. I am a certified master evolutionary astrologer with the Stephen Forrest School of Evolutionary Astrology. However, I have been taught by many of the greats whom most of you don't know. So I love to take all sorts of different perspectives and apply them all to this evolutionary model. So I want to celebrate the fact that uh, before we even jump into anything, that we're all agreed that the meaning and reason and purpose of our doing this astrological stuff is for our soul's evolution and for our growth. And ultimately, we can ask the question, why? Why evolve? I'm happy on my jet ski with my pint of ice cream. What are you talking about, evolve? Well, that jet ski and that pint of ice cream might just happen to be a pattern that we have been in repeat over lifetimes. And maybe what we're really capable of is contributing greatly to humanity. We can't do that from our jet ski and our pint of ice cream necessarily. Maybe we can, but it's not necessarily maybe the purpose of our existence. So we look at evolutionary astrology and we see where we need to grow, where we need to learn, what the purpose and meaning of our existence is. And so today, what I'm going to talk about are the luminaries, the sun and moon. And I've also heard it said, and I'm adding very cautiously, very gingerly adding the ascendant to the definition of luminaries, that which give light. But for those who are uncomfortable of adding the ascendant as a luminary, we can call this the primal triad, the very basis, the very core of our being in the astrological model. So let's jump in, shall we? So the way that I really like to look at astrology, the very core foundational essence of the meaning of the archetypes in astrology, I believe can be found in the astronomy. And in fact, that's a way that I like to look at astrology in general, as poetized and anthropomorphized astronomy. Pretend the sun is kind of like us. What's it doing? Pretend the moon is kind of like us. What's it doing? Pluto, kind of like us. What's it doing out there in space? And then how is that metaphorically reflected in the psychology and the growth and the development of our human evolutionary life? And so what I would really like to have us all understand by the end of this little talk, just a little more a celebration, I guess. That's a great word, the celebration for these core archetypes, the sun and the moon and the ascendant. Now, as evolutionary astrologers, we are very well versed in Pluto and its polarity point. We're looking at Uranus, our trauma. We're looking at Neptune, where we need to find our spiritual bliss. We can focus all of our energy and readings on Pluto squaring the nodes, or transiting Saturn, coming into conjunction with a progressed new moon, and all of these things have an incredible amount of information. But let's look at this astronomically. Here we are on this planet Earth. Most of us anyway, here we are on this planet Earth. And we are caught in this electromagnetic and gravitational pull of this thermonuclear furnace that's flying through space. So let's look at that. We've got Mercury and Venus and Mars and Jupiter and everybody else that is following the trajectory of the sun. So Pluto, it's a really big deal in evolutionary astrology. Let's look at the solar system. Take Pluto out of the equation. Pluto's gone. In fact, let's go back to 1910 or something and look at it. We still existed. We still were alive on this planet. Now, we didn't necessarily have the depth psychology that Carl Jung graced us with. We didn't have necessarily an ability to do this intense self-examination that Pluto characterizes. But hey, Pluto existed out there and maybe it affected us, but we didn't know about it, so its archetypology wasn't so present in our lives. And we go back, Neptune. You know, it's not like we couldn't have spirituality before Neptune. It's just when Neptune came online, so to speak, we started to say, hey, I can be responsible for my own connection with spirit. I don't need no priest to tell me how to find the God. Go back, Uranus. Well, discovered between the American and French revolutions. There it is, the archetype of revolution. We don't need no stinking kings. We can govern ourselves. Welcome to the archetype of Uranus. But here's the thing, we existed before all of those were discovered. So if we take Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, out of the solar system, there may be a little shifting of all the other planets, but chances are, now I'm not an astrophysicist, so I don't know for sure, but it's like metaphorically speaking, the rest of the solar system just kind of rearranges itself a little bit and goes on. We're still following the sun. Take Mars out of the equation. It's possible the rest of the solar system continues. Because it's called a solar system. We don't live in a Mars system. We don't live in a Pluto system. Pluto and Mars, again, very important. But not as important as the sun. Take the sun out of the equation and we are flung off into the abyss, cold and dead within seconds. So is there some importance to the sun? Yes, and in fact, I'm going to make this controversial suggestion that we cannot do our Pluto work. We can't do our Neptunian, our Uranian, our Saturnian, our Jupiterian, or any other work effectively and completely if that sun is shaded, dark, cloudy, if it's not feeding us. You know, for some of us who might live in the Midwest or other northern climes, we can go a month and a half, January, first half of February, without ever seeing the sun. It's called seasonal affective disorder. We get really sad. We get really heavy. We get really weighted down. And so if we don't do our sun right, how are we going to heal our Pluto wound? How are we going to bring peace to the Uranian trauma? How are we going to, soothe the grief that washes through Neptune? Just simply not going to happen if we are lacking the qualities of being healthy in our sun. It doesn't matter what else we do. So that's why, one reason why we say I am in my case, Sagittarian. We define ourselves according to the season in which we were born. Whew, that's big. So the sun comes to mean astronomically that central core burning desire, purpose, value around which every other part of us, our passion, our relationships, our mind, and everything else, around which they must revolve. So the sun holds everything together. If we do our sun ineffectively, nothing else, no other work we do is going to have the lasting impact that it would have if we are safe and secure and happy in our sun. So let's look at that. How do we do that? What is the sun about? The sun, like the solar system, it is that central gravitational, electromagnetic, and gravitational field that holds all of our other parts together. So, talk about myself, lest there be anyone else I know so well. I'm a Sagittarian. And as we all know, Sagittarius is about expanding ideas and the adventure and the exploration. It's about an enthusiastic journey through life, tasting all of the different flavors and synthesizing them into something meaningful. There's Sagittarius. Now, I can tell you that if I, as a Sagittarian, am not on a trajectory of finding meaning, of living deeply and sucking out all the marrow of life and learning what has to teach and then presenting it to others in a helpful way. Here's a platform in which I do that. I have 1,000 astrology clients. That's how I do that. So when I'm doing my Sagittarian self, my Sagittarian exploration, I'm doing Sagittarius right. Oh, then relationship can have an easier time. Then I have a little better time doing my Pluto transformative work because I'm still attuned to the core essence of my being. And so for you, all of us, that's what the sun is about. And so in evolutionary astrology, we want to ask these questions. So what are the core principles and soul intentions that bring sanity and identity and authenticity to our lives? We have to know what those are. What's the end point? What's the strategy? What are the resources? Those all percolate up through the signs. But essentially, the sun will talk about what are these values? We got to stay true to them. We have to know the totality of who we are. So there's Sagittarius, just talked about. Pretend we're in Aries. What's the meaning and the purpose, the end point, if you will, of an Aries sun where we are now? It's all about finding courage, will, and claiming our self-love. That's the end point. That's the meaning, the evolutionary purpose of an Aries sun. If an Aries sun does not have their sword drawn and are advancing confidently in the direction of their dreams, like a good Aries will, then all of that energy can contort and twist and turn inwards, and that anger can broil up. We can end up fighting the wrong fight. And so doing this, and so if we're fighting the wrong fight and a Pluto trigger comes in, say we have a Pluto-Saturn conjunction by transit, which is happening for everyone, in some part of our birth chart, let's call it 7th house, and we're experiencing all of this intensity through relationships. If we don't have our own personal set of values and identity kind of locked in, then there is no hope for relationship. And this is why in every single one of my full readings, I spend a really good amount of time on the sun, because when we do this right, everything else falls into place. So the sun in its position points to the season of our birth. And, you know, a little, I guess, what's the word? Let's just call it edgy. Here's a little edgy thing. Astrology has very little to do, except for our projected meaning, with magic energy coming from the picture of two fishes in the sky, which wobbles back and forth through procession. What I'm interested in is the seasons. That's where the meaning is. That's where we get the signs. And so when the sun is in a particular season, like Aries that it is now, what do we want to do? We want to get going. We want to make some choices and make some changes and do some things that we may not have been able to do in the doldrums of winter. And so springtime comes along and the sun starts to gain a whole lot more power, as do we. And so the grand archetypology of astrology really based in the seasons. And so this is Ryan Evans coined a term and is the title of my book, so please don't use it yet. We call it, I don't want to call it astrology. I want to call it seasonal archetypology, because that's what we're doing here. And so the sun in its season of Aries, we're born in the season of Aries, we take on the imprint of the vibrational, the historical, the genetic meaning of what we have had to experience in Aries over the last, 100,000 years? And so the snow melts and we get going. And so these seasons, so very important. Where would we be without these seasons? How did we get these seasons? Well, welcome to the moon, the bridge to life. So we've got the sun, you know, the essence of who we are, our identity, our vitality. This is why I came here on this planet. I'm an Aries will say, I came here to learn personal power. I came here to find strength and self-love. That's the meaning of your life if you're an Aries. So let everything flow around that intention. But what about the moon? Oh, well, the moon, astronomically, is what gives us our seasons. It makes this Earth a habitable climate. So what, 4.5 billion years, the current theory is some Mars-sized planet or asteroid collided with the Earth and ejected out the moon. That's the current working theory based on NASA. But what the moon does astronomically through its gravity in relation to Earth moderates our wobble. And that moderating our wobble gives us the seasons. And so we as humans, I believe, you know, how do I know? But I believe that this rhythm, this pulse of seasons of hot and cool and hot and cool, this pulse, this heartbeat helped give birth to life, help nurture life, help sustain life. And in our early human development, I mean, the moon was the great goddess. The moon was was the essence of our inner life, our gentler, softer, feminine side. So we projected all of this meaning onto the moon. Oh, look at the women in rhythm with the moon. Look at the ocean in rhythm with the moon. Wow, magical and mysterious. The queen of the night. And so this giver of life, this progenitor of the seasons, this great mother. Yep, there it is. We project meaning onto it, and that's how we get astrology in general. So what does the moon then represent? Well, the moon being shining at night represents, what cannot be seen night within us. Well, that's our inner life, our feelings, our trans-rational needs. We can't necessarily always put words to the feelings. And so out of the moon births poetry. So there's a good 10 or 11, and this is probably going to be a whole nother Zoom meeting in the near future. But the moon talks about our soul's intention. The moon, the mood, the interior, the heart. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let us call the moon our heart. The sun, our life force, but it's the heart, the rhythms, like the moon and the rhythms. There it is. What's in here? That's what we have to pay attention to. And once again, we can do all of the psychological scrutiny work of trying to define the purpose of Pluto squaring our Saturn. That's important stuff, and we could talk for an hour about that. However, we are not going to ever, in my experience, find resolution and healing and the power that is potentially inherent in a Pluto-Saturn square. We're not going to find that if we're feeling emotionally unstable, we don't have our needs met, and we're basically unhappy. In fact, that might be part of the reason that the Pluto-Saturn square is happening. And so we always have to come back to the moon. What does the heart need? And so, evolutionary questions. What transrational, that's the word that we use. It doesn't have to make sense. I want chocolate. Why? It doesn't matter, I just want chocolate. Okay, there's the moon talking. And so we ask ourselves, what transrational needs and joys must we be true to in order to maintain our happiness and our sense of peace, our sense of well-being? And therefore, the moon will talk to us. What do we need to do to nurture ourselves? How do we heal our stuff? What do we do with all of this stuff that I can't even define? And so when we can answer these questions, wow, we are filled with meaning and purpose. And so we can say, all right, well, you've got a Leo moon. What does your heart need? Well, Leo ruled by the sun. We're looking at an integration of solar energy and lunar energy. And we know that the sun is a thermonuclear furnace, transmuting hydrogen into helium magically. and the sun expresses itself out and offers warmth and light. Again, gravity, electromagnetism. And so a Leo moon, what does the heart need? The heart needs to shine. The heart needs to radiate. There's a little something in that heart that needs to be brought out into the light. And so if a Leo moon does not feel like they're shining, like they're on stage, or at the very least being received by another, Leo moon could be like, oh, what's going on? I've got all this energy. Oh, I don't know what's happening. You know, I need to play. Where's my playmates? And implosion. And the last thing we want to do is see a supernova happen with a Leo moon. But those of us who have or know Leo moons are very well aware of the potential for emotional supernova. So therefore, if we are in emotional supernova and we're trying, and it's something with our moon, doesn't have to be afflicted by anything, or there doesn't have to necessarily be any trigger from an outer planet. This is just all the time. And so if we're not in that place of feeling safe and feeling happy and feeling like, say, a Leo moon is feeling radiant, if they're feeling like they're imploding, there's no way that anyone is going to accurately deal with a Saturn transit. We're going to miss the Jupiter opportunities. We're going to project everything onto Venus, and we'll enrage with Mars. And so very, 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 very important is the moon. So what's the moon about? It is our soul's intention. How do we be happy? It is our inward subjective reality. Nobody else on this planet, unless they rip them off my face, is going to be looking through these glasses. No one. This is my own subjective reality. How do I feel about that? Welcome to the moon. The moon represents our emotional and psychological needs. Take a moon and exchange the last letter N for D. There's our mood. So the moon is our mood. Leo moon, generally jovial. You know, a Leo moon is not feeling really great when they're not bouncing off the walls, jumping for joy. Or another aspect of Leo is a quiet nobility too. If a Leo moon isn't sitting there proudly, then there's something wrong. We have to pay attention to that. Aries moon, yes, chances are your Aries moon, you're gonna feel what it feels like to always be on the brink of war, and how to be in an empowered place as opposed to a place of victimization, etc. So we have to pay very special attention to this moon, because on another level, the moon describes our basic assumptions of reality. How do we feel about this life? Well, again, Leo moon, it's going to feel like, you know, this life is about celebrating. Aries moon, you're going to feel like this life is about putting yourself out there in the world. Taurus moon, you are here to chill and find peace. And so this then actually percolates into our basis for intimacy. When those moons connect, when we feel safe with another person, there it is. When we feel safe with another person, we're then able to show our moon. You don't feel safe with anybody? That's fine. Give them your ascendant all day. Hi there, yep, here's the mask. We'll get to that in a minute. But wow, now I feel safe with you. Wow, say we have a Leo moon. Now I don't feel so inhibited. Now I'm going to be my dramatic self. So when we engage other people, this part here is the most tender, the most sensitive. That's why we've got this sternum that protects it. You know, without that, you know, we'd be wearing our heart on our sleeve, and then people could be like, oh, what's that delicious thing? Is that an apple? Oh, no, gross, I don't want it. And then we're like, oh, that was my heart. Oh, you just took a bite of my heart. Oh. So we got to keep it in here until we're safe, knowing that whoever we're sharing it with isn't going to take a big bite out of it and throw it on the floor. So the basis for intimacy, we are not going to be able to do a Venus right. You have Pluto coming to square, conjoin, oppose your Venus. Let's go to the moon first. So what is it that you need? What is it that makes you happy? What is the basic non-mental part of you that you need for happiness? And if we have something triggering our relationship archetype, Venus, and we don't have our moon taken care of, it's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to be who we really are in relationship if our moon is feeling afflicted. And so therefore, revealing the moon is a basis of trust. Oh, here, I'm showing you my heart. Please don't eat it. Spit it out. Kick it on the floor. So it's like, wow, I mean, doesn't that sound like Venus? Venus, you know, who to trust, how to trust, what people we want to bring in, what people we don't want. We're not going to know that stuff until we know what's really happening in here, our heart. There's the moon. So with this heart, we have clues and lessons as to how to take care of ourselves, how to nurture ourselves. Moon, the mother, the great mother, who without the moon, we would not have the wobble of the earth, would probably be a lot more crazy. And so therefore, our entire biosphere could be completely different, and life as we know it very well could not exist. So the great mother of life, maybe it was the lunar pull that brought the certain proteins together to form DNA. Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. I mean, I don't think I was there. I mean, part of me was there. Part of you was there. Maybe you know. So the moon, the great mother, how do we heal? What do we need for our healing? Again, Uranus affliction. We are feeling the anxiety and the trauma and the chaos and all this stuff. And I understand that that's a very important thing to look at and talk about in readings. I do it all the time. However, if I do not have a sense of what my client needs for their moon, for their heart, their safety, what they need for healing, how are they going to heal any trauma? How are they going to heal any woundedness? How are we going to find our right work? How are we going to connect with spirit if we're not connecting with this place? So the sun and the moon. Oh yeah, you know, it's so easy to just say, okay, yeah, well, you know, I'm an Aries, and you know, I'm got a lot of fire, and you know, I've got a Gemini moon, and I'm, you know, active and inquisitive, and you know, let's go on to the big stuff. Let's go on to the deeper stuff. So easy to do, because there's a lot of juice in that Pluto, a lot of juice in that polarity point, a lot of juice in Uranus square the nodes, a lot of specificity in that. You want to have a really impactful reading on the individual that you are reading for, or for ourselves, we have to pay attention to the moon. And again, the sun, number one. The trajectory of an Aries sun, even though it's still fire, is different than the trajectory of a Sagittarius sun, different than a Leo sun. All same element. They sound a little the same, but they're all different. So we have to honor that. So back to the moon, how we heal, how we replenish, how we comfort ourselves. Wow, how about this one? We call it the inner child. And so how do we take care of that child? How do we take care of ourselves? Again, you have a Leo moon, you need to go play. Do something that makes you feel expansive and joyous. You have a Gemini moon, go try something new. Go check something else out. Get a little variety into your life. Ask some questions. Find some friends. Get another perspective on the turmoil. Yeah, that sounds great. You have a Pisces moon. What do you need for your healing? You need prayer or art. You need art therapy as a Pisces moon. And so with that, there needs to be an amount of surrendering to that inner child. Again, these are trans-rational. We can't, I'm sitting here using words to define this, but ultimately it's a feeling thing. So when we contact our client or when we're connecting with ourselves, we have to feel that resonance with whatever the archetype is that we're describing. So we can access either ourselves or our client on a level that goes beyond the mind. It's so easy to be like, oh yes, that's some good data. Oh yes, that's some good information. But to really access the client, want to talk to that moon, want to access that heart. And so as we surrender to this, we begin to expand that other tricky word that wants to be applied to Neptune, that's actually the moon, intuition. That subtle, soft feeling inside of us, that impulse. We can call this whimsy. Oh, I just feel like doing this. We follow that, and we are taking care of our moon. Lastly, the moon can be the left side of the body and therefore is the right side of the brain. Therefore, everything creative, everything intuitive, everything receptive, we are looking at the moon. So, really big, these luminaries, the sun and the moon. If the sun and the moon in our charts, in your client's charts, are somehow afflicted, somehow lacking actualization, awareness, then I can pretty much stamp an astro guarantee that nothing else is gonna fall into place. Saturn will be Saturn still, and Pluto will put on his dark leather and face paint and hide in the shadows. And no matter what conscious work we do, we'll still default back to the thing that we can't really put words on, that I don't necessarily feel safe right now. I don't feel happy. And if we don't feel happy, how are we going to do our Saturn work? You have to be happy in order to do the Saturn work. Otherwise, it's called depression. If you're happy and doing your Saturn work, it's called exhaustion. So, you know you're doing your Saturn work right if you're exhausted. You know you're doing your Saturn work unsophisticatedly, ends in depression. How do we heal that, Saturn? Why does one person choose the right way and the other person choose the shadow way? It's because of the moon. It's because of the sun. Because we're either not following our path or we're not following our heart. And so, yeah, it sounds, I wouldn't be surprised if there's, just a few people attending this live, and on YouTube it gets maybe, 48 views or something. People look at it, oh, the sun and the moon. Sun and the moon are the most important things in your astrological chart. Without the sun, you would not exist. This whole solar system would not exist. Without the moon, life would not exist. So we've got the sun, which brings all the archetypes together, and we've got the moon, which is all the archetypes within us. Interesting way of looking at it. So what do we do with that? How do we deal with that? We got the sun, we got the moon, we've got our life trajectory, and we got how we feel about it. How do we do something with that? How do we get our act together? How do we present those parts of ourselves, who we are, and what our heart is about? How do we engage the world with that? We can hide with all that. Yeah, I'm doing my sun moon conjunction in Scorpio, and I'm hiding out here at the edge of the woods. I'm the sun moon and Scorpio 4th house. I'm hiding out at the edge of the woods as the shaman healer. Hello, I'm here. Anybody? No, nope. Okay. How do we present that? How do we give that to the world? Well, welcome to the ascendant. And again, circling back to the beginning, I have heard the ascendant called a luminary. I have also had people be violently angry at me if I suggest that a point is something that gives light. But look at it. This is the point of dawn. This is the point that rises. This is where all that energy shines out into the world. We take the sun, we take the moon, and we can put them together when we're healthy. And then we use the ascendant as a vehicle for their true expression out into the world. So let's in the remaining few minutes here, let's take a look at what this point means, this angle, this point where the sun rises. Even if we were born at midnight, there is still a point at which the sun would rise. And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the point of dawn. So the metaphor, and all astrology is metaphor, the metaphor is, well, how do we dawn on people? Oh, it's dark, it's dark, it's dark. Okay, now I can see the light because there's the ascendant. Here's the light. Who are you? Okay, now I can see you. It doesn't necessarily have to be the incredible power of the sun or the rich feeling of the moon, but when we mastered our sun and our moon, then we can take pieces of that and radiate that out. So we've got a Leo moon. Come back to the Leo moon. And Let's say there's a Cancer rising. Well, here's the Leo moon. That's the performer, child, clown sometimes, and it's shining. Let's make it a late Cancer rising and put the Leo moon in the third house. That third house Leo moon's going to want to express what's inside of them, often through the voice or through the written word. Pretty simple, rudimentary. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm gonna be a dictator. No, that's not going to work. I'm gonna be a scuba diver. Well, not going to necessarily get the point across that you might want to with a third house moon and a Cancer rising. What are you going to do? You're going to access the archetype of Cancer, which is lunar, which is the mother, which is the healer. Cancer rising, the healer mother type, with a Leo moon in the third house. Well, the way to express that Leo moon, and extra powerful with the Cancer rising, the best way to express that Leo moon is by being of service, being helpful, being a loving, giving, mothering, healing type for other individuals. Our ascendant, according to Jodie Forrest in her book, The Ascendant, says that not only is the ascendant the persona and the mask we wear, and oh, hi, yes, I'm a Cancer rising, and when I'm not with you, I take that off, and I'm really this. She says, not only is it the mask we wear, but it's the uniform, it's the clothes, it's how we present ourselves, our stylistic presentation. Not only is it the uniform, but it's the car that we are driving. You have a Scorpio rising, maybe you're driving the Batmobile. You have a Cancer rising, maybe it's a hovercraft. You can go on land and water. Got an Aries rising, it's a flaming chariot. And so the vehicle that we are driving through this life with. And moreover, she says, it is also the terrain that we encounter. You have a Cancer rising, you're going to go over a lot of emotional terrain. You have an Aries rising, you're going to potentially fight a lot of battles in your life. You have a Libra rising, you are going to engage the world through other people. And so this energy, we take our sun and our moon and we shine it through this movie screen, through the stained glass of our ascendant. And that light bends and that light refracts. But that's how we are able to effectively engage the world outside of us. The moon, how to engage the world within us and then without. The sun, how to just simply exist in the first place. But with our ascendant, it's not till we put on our clothes, unless we're like at, Harbin Hot Springs or something. We put on our clothes and we get in the vehicle and we drive over the terrain. We go to work, we show up, we present ourselves, we say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. It's like advertising. Hey, I'm a Leo moon here in the third house, here to be kind of celebratory and encouraging with my words. Let me do that in a healing manner. Cancer rising. Let me do it in a hardcore shamanistic manner as a Scorpio rising. Let me shine and radiate that Leo moon. Let's put it a Leo rising. Well, what happens when the sun or the moon are the same as the ascendant? It just means that there's less filter. There's less screen, less diffusion to occur there. So with this, here's a shadow of the ascendant. With this stained glass that we're looking out into our life with, we can easily muddy and sully that lens very easily. We can say Cancer rising. Has anyone who has any Cancer in their chart ever felt a little hyper emotional? Yes, that is a very strong possibility. And yeah, we can very easily put all sorts of fear onto that Cancer rising. We can put all sorts of hurt onto that lunar Cancer rising. We can put all sorts of fear onto that lunar Cancer rising. So we can easily come out into the world as a Cancer rising, completely afraid, wanting to hide, wanting to, feeling incredibly defensive. Cancer, the crab, having the shell that we hide under. Very easy to do. So if we have an afflicted ascendant, or we're not doing our ascendant sophisticatedly, then the way we present the truth of our being, it doesn't have an easy access. Oh, well, you know, I'm a Sagittarian, you know, trying to find meaning in life, and got this Leo moon that you know, really wants to be expressive and be celebratory and encouraging for other people. But as a Cancer rising, if I am scared, if I feel threatened, if I feel hurt, then none of that solar radiance, none of that lunar depth and feeling, it's not going to come out. So this primal triad, luminaries, work together harmoniously. And we can say, you know, very simply, in speed reading the chart, we can say, I am the sun with the heart of the moon, driving through life as our ascendant. So we can put that all together. I'm a Sagittarius sun with the Leo moon and a Cancer rising. We could say, I am the philosopher with the heart of a performer, driving through life as a healer. That'd be a wonderful way to describe the primal triad. So say you have a Capricorn sun and a Libra. Let's make it all cardinal. Capricorn sun and a Libra moon with an Aries rising. Well, you are in charge. You are the boss as a Capricorn, but with the heart of a lover. Libra moon, but still having to present yourself out into the world as a powerful force. And so that's also a way to integrate. You know, where are the words the same? Does Capricorn sound like a boss or a leader? Sure it does. Aries sound like a leader? Sure it does. And you see the synergy. And when we can take words that sound synonymous between the signs, then we get a lot more specificity as to who our client is or who we are. And so our client comes in and they have a Capricorn sun with a Libra moon and an Aries rising, and we can get a sense of, you know, this Aries rising, you know, I'm going to need to be direct with this person. I'm going to be very respectful to my comrade here. And I'm also going to see that they have a Capricorn sun. And so their core values are about responsibility and making wise decisions, doing good, effective work as a Capricorn. And that moon in Libra just wants to be helpful. Wow. A really responsible helper who's powerful, that could be a really great thing. And so when we can define that primal triad for ourselves or our clients, then we can use that as a strong basis around which everything else in the chart has a magnificent context. So the responsible worker with the heart of a diplomat, wearing the mask as the warrior, that is, someone could be having a Pluto square Pluto happening in their transits. And if we don't have that context of who this person really is, there's no way to put that Pluto square into context. And so, in conclusion, astrology ain't nothing without a solar system. Our solar system is called a solar system because it all revolves around the sun. And so taking care of our sun, doing our sun right, we align with our core values and our life intention. If we do our sun unsophisticatedly, it feels like another cloudy winter day, and everything else is going to be shaded. Everything else is going to be dark. So we do our sun right. We have a better chance of holding the rest of our archetypal solar system together. We do our moon right, and we are set inside here. Anything else can happen out there. Relationship stuff, money stuff, work stuff, you name it. Nothing else out there is ever going to find its healing until we got it right in here. And all of that is found very simply in the sign and house placement of the moon. Before you say, oh, and my moon is squared by Pluto. Before we say, oh, my sun is opposed by Saturn. Because regardless of the influence out there, we get that core archetypology mastered. Cancer moon, and we allow ourselves to feel it all. Let it flow. Let it go. And if you have a Cancer moon and you're choosing to hide, you're choosing to shell yourself off, no Pluto affliction, no Uranian affliction is ever gonna find its healing until we take care of that very core basic archetype of our heart. And concurrently, that sun and the moon are not going to find their effective means of presentation to the world without a clear understanding of our ascendant. Who do we really think we want to be presenting ourselves to the world? We do our ascendant right, we can synthesize our sun and moon into one radiant beam of light and shine it through that ascendant. The way the sun rises through the trees and the light comes and it's a new day. So mastering the primal triad is, in my guesstimation, my experience actually, the core foundational work for everything else in the astrological chart. So that's what I have to say there. And it looks like we do have 5 to 7 minutes or the like that we can we can answer any questions if there happen to be any. If not, then fare thee well. Any questions? Come on now, don't be shy. All right. Well, then it sounds like perhaps we have all mastered and fully integrated the meaning of the sun, moon, and ascendant. And my hope is that that we can use this information to further assist those whom we are assisting through this beautiful gift of archetypology we call astrology. So thanks very much.